Hello viewers, welcome again to once another episode of our program. We are commemorating 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is violence that is directed at any individual, be it on his or her biological or gender identity. It also includes physical, sexual, verbal, emotional, and psychological abuse, that's coercion, and economic or educational deprivation, whether occurring in public or in private life. So today is our 60th day as we commemorate these days, and today we have our guest, Mutimbanyoka, who is the director and founder of Sprout Women. So we'll come back to you just after this break. Welcome back, our viewers. Welcome to our Zoom Daily. And today, as I said before, that we have Carol in the studio. And Carol, you can introduce yourself to the viewers.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for having me. As you said, I'm the director of Sprout Women Empowerment Trust. And like everyone else, we are also commemorating the 16th day
of activism against gender-based violence, and we are looking at really how it affects our women and girls, and the conflicts that are happening in our homes, and how we can maybe reduce them from an individual perspective, going outside to our local government, to our communities, and how we can relate around the issue of violence against women.
Carol, before we get into the program, today we are discussing about unpaid care week. So we would want to know more about Sprout Women.
Okay. So Sprout Women is an organization that I founded in 2018 after looking at the challenges that we face as women and girls. And we were founded in a way to respond to the needs of the people in our communities. It's a community-based organization. We work in the Chitumbiza area, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to expand into Seke Rural and other surrounding spaces. But really, Tsitsi, we're looking at the challenges that women are facing on the ground and responding to them, especially the issue of hunger,
the issue of just women not having enough sort of income to be able to explore their career side or to do something so that they can sustain their families. So you find that as Sprout Women Empowerment Trust, we have responded to SDG 1 and 2 around the issue of zero hunger, and also looking at poverty eradication. We do backyard gardens, we do mushroom farming, and we are trying to add value to some of the things that we are doing. So you find us not just with fresh foods, but with mufushwa for cabbage, mufushwa for rape, mufushwa for mushroom, and we are by all means trying to get our veggies in the shops.
That then gets me to my first question.
Yes.
You said you also teach women to grow plants in different places. Then how then is unpaid care work how does it link with domestic violence?
So to say, when we look at unpaid care work, we're looking at the activities that are done so that a home can, we can keep our homes lively and going, and things going well. So we look at maybe direct care of individuals, whereby you're actually caring for your husband, for the grandma, or for the kids, and also the other work that you have to do that is unpaid. So you look at your washing, you look at your cooking, you look at time spent, especially around looking for water. So I'll give you the context of the time that we are surviving in during COVID. You know that everything has been closed and people are restricted from moving, and people are at home. What it therefore means is that an extra burden is bestowed upon women and girls in terms of just caring for everyone, and the pressure is a little bit too much and weighs heavily on the women and girls. I am sure you remember very well the work that is said, iribasa revakadzi, this is just work meant for our women and girls. And so kubika, kuwacha, everything is resting upon women and girls, especially around this time, COVID. And when we look at the situation that we have, whereby we don't have water in our homes, it's an added time that is needed, or an added burden that is bestowed on women and girls. And COVID requires extra care, extra cleanliness, and that is the job of women and girls.
So then, what is the root cause in terms of distributing this unpaid care work at home?
So it's when you look at it, kungoti, what is your role as a woman? What is it that you do? And sometimes then we are looking at our social construction. Say, how are we brought up? So mainly it's your women who are expected to be in the kitchen, and men are supposed to be looking for work, apparently work then that pays them. Whereas as women and girls, we're expected to just be doing and this work is usually unpaid. So you find kuti distribution actually is something that we grew up chingoripo. And that burden has been solely on what? Women and girls.
Then, which means this then remain a problem. Then how then do we make sure that we change this? Or maybe how can people change from this? Because when you are growing up, or to a married person like you, you can't be, when your mother-in-law comes at your home and find out that your husband is cooking or doing something, how then do we change the mindset of our parents, our sisters, our mothers, or even the husbands and the brothers in terms of unpaid care work?
So when you look at it, starts with you as an individual to say, how do I want things to be different in my home? So I don't separate the work inoitwa nemwana wangu msikana nemwana wangu mkomana, but to try and say iwo it up so that we can actually help each other. This is why you're seeing kuti if we don't deal with this until now, unpaid care work is causing so much conflict and violence in the homes right now as we speak. Because my duties, if they weigh heavily on the woman, even to satisfy the husband later on. And haachanzwisisa kuti waswera uri kumvura ukadzoka ukawacha ukabika waendesa vana kuchikoro warongedza chakati waita chakati, you don't even have time for yourself. So you're grumpy, you are tired, you are stressed, you're exhausted. But if we don't talk about this, communication even inonetsa. So when we look at redistributing unpaid care work, it's really something that is important, and it takes a collective approach to also change even the mindset of our men to say, look, let's normalize these things. Kitchen. Can we change something around?
Live at Zim Daily, where we are discussing in commemoration of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And the theme for this year is Fund, Respond, Prevent, and Collect. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Zim Daily. Today, as I said before in the studio, I have Caroline Mutimbanyoka from Sprout Women, and we are discussing about unpaid care work in commemorating these 16 days of activism against gender, and also how it's affecting women and relationships in homes. So then, how then is domestic violence happening in these homes, especially if we look at water points, what has been happening in places like where you're working in Chitumbiza, there's shortage of water. So what's really happening in relationships in terms of going out around 3, and also we have noticed that there were early teenage pregnancies that's been happening because of shortage of water.
So what you see is that the lack of proper social service delivery is causing too much pressure in our homes, a burden, of course, that we're bearing as women and girls. But when we take it now into our homes, we are finding kuti at 3 a.m., because water is now a precious liquid and a very scarce commodity. Kwa uri kuenda kuma water spaces, there are queues that you need to be in, and kuti ukwanise kuwana mvura, like you can't survive without water, so you are desperate and you need this water. So you find kuti women are waking up kuma 3 a.m. vachida kuenda unobata line rekuti munhu akwanise kuwana mvura. And kufamba kubva kumba kwako kuenda kuma water points, dzimwe nguva the distance is not what is not short, distance yakareba. Tikuona kuti vakadzi vanenge vachirepwa munzira, kana kuti wakutofanira kutodanana nanhingi wekuti wakungotaimirawo kuti nekuti ndiye anondiperekedza kumvura. Nevane musikanzwa are also taking advantage of that to say ndo chance yangu yekuti ndibudewo ndonoswera ikoko ndoita sei ndozowana mvura. And dzimwe nguva pama water points achona, Tsitsi, I'm sure you've been reading quite a lot of stories and seeing what's happening, kuti vasikana vakawanda nhumbu dzakutobuda nekuti kwete kuti uri kuda munhu but you are desperate, mvura unotoida. Ende kumba dzimwe nguva vabereka vachanzwisoti koenda kumvura ukadzoka usina chachi, nekuti yes, nekuti these conversations tichinyatsotaura, and not because sometimes kuda kwedu, but because it's something that we also need to get into our habits, to say tinombonyatsotaura nevana vedu tichinzwa kuti tichikuitika kuda pari toenda mvura toshungurudzwa, but unozodzoka uchiti kosei wauya usina mvura. So you find a lot of girls are falling in the trap yekunzi tanga wandida kuti ukwanise kuwana mvura. Mukudanana kuya pamwe hakusitongori kudanana, but tanga warara neni so that you can get water. So you find kuti many of those incidents are really happening. Then conflicts chaiwo ekungoti men are controlling water points, because pane vamwe vanonzi mabore committee, and vanhu anotongosvika anenge achitozikanwa kuti uyu anongosvika otomira ipapo, kana usiri in good books naye, kana kuti usina chaunozivana naye, kana kuti kana waramba kuita zvaanoda, it also puts pressure on you to say saka ndiri kudzokera here ndisina mvura apa mhuri yangu iri kuda mvura. So like I was saying kuti it's something chinoda a collective approach, because taakuda kutarisa nyaya yelocal government kuti tione kuti what is it that they are doing as a country, what are we doing towards water service delivery, because kana mvura dzichibuda mataps medu hatichamuka na 3. Look at the burden of unpaid care work, nyaya yetime that is spent mwana achienda unotsvaga mvura, kana kuti mukadzi achienda unotsvaga mvura. You cannot do your business ranga wakatarisira kuita, maybe you want to study, you can't do that. Kana kuti wane nguva yadiki yekuti ukwanise kuzviita, you can't even advance your career because uri kuziva kuti time yese yawaspenda uri ikoko, apa uri kuda kudzoka futi kumba, mwana ari kuchema mama ndoda chakati, pari kuda kubikwa, pada kuwachwa, pada kuitwa zvimwe zvinhu zvese. Murume ari kutarisirwa kuti you are also going to give them a little bit of time. So that's also one challenge, and my conflicts are kubuda around nyaya unpaid care work and gender-based violence.
Looking at it, the unpaid care work, then in homes, we've talked about the girls and the women. Then how is it then a burden as well to the men? Because you understand that men are also facing the same challenges of these fights and domestic violence as well. But I think it's because we don't really talk about men. We also just think that women are the only people who are involved in domestic violence. Okay. So how is then this affecting the men as well?
So Tsitsi, when you look at it this way, I think so much work and effort has been put around maybe talking about girls, and women and girls, and if you look at the statistics, really, people who've been reporting the statistics yakabudiswa neMsasa shows kuti kubva patime yelockdown April to October pavakaita research 60% yemacases egender-based violence yakawedzera, with 60% versus my previous months. And when you look at it, about 94% of the people who reported were kuti vataura kuti ndarohwa nemukadzi. And also we look at reporting criteria yachona kutoendawo kumaprisa uri semunhu wemurume ari kutariswa kunzi ndiwe baba vembo chinotaura kuti ndiri kurohwa namainingi. Zvinhu zvinoita sezvinonyadzisa, but really reality zvinhu zviri kuitika. So you also see kuti even in the way that we do programs edu, one of our programs says Proud is to focus on the development of women and their rights. We also include men in some of these dialogues, because it's not enough for us to be talking about gender-based violence without putting men at the center of these advocacy initiatives. So sometimes it's really important to just also have men discuss with them and find out kuti chii chinomboitika. Of course pane imwe mhirizhonga iri kuitika mumbatsitsi yekungoti vanhu havagone kutaurirana zvakanaka, kana kutiwo munhu agarawo ane misikanzwa yake anoita kunze, mukadzi ozozviziva after all the effort yaanenge achiisa and everything, vopedzisira vakonzera mafights. Mamwe achona anogona kutove ma-external pressures anenge achingokonzera vamwena vachiti mukadzi wako handimude, kana kuti vanasekuru vanenge vachiuya vachidonopindira mumba menyu, that also causing conflicts. Asi nyaya yekuti also having men really at the forefront of talking and condemning gender-based violence, because yakanyanya inoitika like you have defined, kuti depending even your biological framework, kuti murume anengozviti nini ndakatosimba ndokwanisa kurova hapana zvaunoita, ende ichokwadi, ende kazhinji kachona ndo zvatiri kuona. Asi to also ignore completely kuti we also have women who are perpetrators of violence, tinenge tichiita an imbalance. So inyaya yekutarisa in our approach in an inclusive manner, to say how can we put men at the forefront of saying, look, it's normal for me to be helping out my wife, kuti mumba medu musaite bongozozo. It's normal kuti mukadzi wangu ambondibatsirawo kuita 1, 2, 3 things because zvinhu zvakaoma. Iko zvinokatarisa nenyaya yelockdown yatachitaura nezvayo. I think from the workshops and dialogues that we've been doing, especially around time ye 16 days, one of the things that are also coming up is nyaya yenzara mudzimba. So kunongedzerana kwekwe kuti uri panapa pamba hapana chauri kuita, kana kuti iwewo hapana chauri kuunza. It's also causing so much conflict. So it goes to provision chaiyo yemumba, nyaya yechikafu, kushayikwa kwechikafu, nyaya yekushayikwa kwemvura idzodzi, nekungoti makaungana mese makuswera mese manje toita tunhongwa twaunga usingamboona mumwe ari kubasa muchiswera muri apart. They are very clear and in your face. So I think as we look into this discussion, as we delve more into it, it's something that has to be inclusive. Yes.
Yeah, like you mentioned about how the domestic violence is being caused or what they've been happening during the COVID-19 era. Then what do you think the government, aren't they supposed to be doing something? Also, you're talking about poverty. When they say we are now on lockdown, most of the people, the majority of Zimbabweans, they are vendors. They do not have a source of income that is stable.
That's true.
Which means they were now at home for a long time. So do you think the government should have made something available for the people in Zimbabwe who cannot have anything to put on the table?
Tsitsi, when you look at our level of vulnerability as a country, yakawedzera panyaya tatagara takaomerwa economically and things worsened. The money that was given to for our welfare or for cushioning of the COVID-19 was 300. Kuti uchinatsotarisa maprocesses achona ekuti okay 300 yakapuwa ani uye inotengei, because we need to be realistic around how that 300 is really helping out. Iwe ukaenda unotenga hupfu, iko zvinozvi kuti titenda unotenga hupfu unogona kukostera 200 something. Zvikureva kuti wangotenga 5 kg yehupfu ende muri kutarisirwa kuti murarame mwedzi wese. And ukada kutarisa lockdown yanga ichingonzi atamu lockdown effective of tonight kana kuti effective of tomorrow morning. Iwe uri vendor, you don't have much. So I think inyaya yekuti titarise kuti really when we tikabatwa nema situations akadai, same as mamwe ma-pandemics anogona kunge akatiwira zvakangofanana na cyclone idai, we have to have a specific amount that is set aside to ensure kuti zvesure we cushion the vulnerable in times of need like this. To also look at even the distribution of that money, who got that money, accountability. as well to be able to check and say, okay, vakawana ma 300 vacho vakanyatsomaona zveshuwa here akavabatsira kusvika papi, how can we do it better? So I think inyaya yekuti titarise futi nyaya yekuti what is government doing to ensure that we cushion the vulnerable panyaya patime yatinayo, and to create my environments anoita kuti vanhu vakwanise kusimukira. Tsitsi ukada kutarisa iko zvinozvi, I'll draw you to even the budget raako ezvinozvi zviri kureva kuti tanga tichimbobhadhira ma 2% tax. We are now looking also into the $30, about $30 yetax yawedzerwa futi to those who are informal traders, of which ndo vakazvuzara. Saka wakutarisa kuti munhu ari kutengesa mabhanana ukamuti ndipe 50-30 pamusoro ari kucharisei. So yanyaya yekuti we look into the government and say, really, what can we do to ensure that we cushion? If it's a government that has people at heart, can we look into those issues?
This is Zim Daily, and like I said, against the violence, and to, this year's theme is fund, respond, prevent, and collect. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Zim Daily. To those who want to comment or say anything, you can contact us on our channels. You can get on our Facebook page Zim Daily, you can get on our YouTube Zim Daily, or you can contact us on our Twitter handle at Zim Daily. And today in the studio, like I said before, I have Caroline Mutimbanyoka, who works and is also the founder of Sport Women, as we discuss the unpaid care work and the burden that it has brought into families and in our homes. Carol, like we said before, that the government should come up with some policies and also maybe a budget which is budgeted for anything that may happen in our country. But then, who can we involve in our communities or at home so that we make sure that these burdens that are caused by unpaid care work is reduced?
So, Tsitsi, when we zvinhu zvakawanda iri kubata kushomeka kwedu kwemvura, ende kushomeka kwedu kwemvura zviri kureva kuti even zesa magetsi edu, because we also get water from hydropower, zviri kureva kuti taakutambudzika even panyaya yemagetsi. Ibhedheni futi kune madzimai nevasikana, because ndo vada kubuda futi kuenda kunotsvaga huni, ma-health implications that comes with that, the danger that also comes with kuenda kwavo kunotsvaga huni. Hatichatarisa nekukanganisa kwavanenge vachiita environment, deforestation. So vanhu vatinofanira kubata vanhu ma-local leaders emunharaunda medu, but to also have these conversations as a nation to say, what is our space? Are people aware kuti kune chinhu chinonzi climate change and its impact? Are we doing something around collection even yegarbage? Nekuti iko zvinozvi tikada kutarisa kwakunonaya, and marara akasakolektwa tsvina iyaya necovid, can you imagine kuti zvinenge zvakaita sei? Tana typhoid, tane zvimwe zvirwere zvese ma-waterborne diseases akutanga kubuda, ende iko zvino nekuwedzera kwakuita macases edu ecovid, zviri kureva kuti we have to be extra careful around how we are treating cleanliness and our environment. Saka it's an inclusive conversation that we need to have with our local government, with in our national spaces, as well as us isusu muma-communities medu, to also actually take responsibility and say, okay, tatambura mabhini eda asikuita sei, haasi kutakurwa, toita sei senharaunda. Some of these conversations we need to really bring them down and say, semuraina ndinoziva tine maraina ayaya, toti seraini redu, what can we do? Pane here space yatogona kuunganidza marara edu kuitira kuti vanhu vazongoya vachimakolekta ipapo, tochera here makomba kuti tiite compost, because sive magarden tete akutofunga kuti zvinoora ngatizvicherere pasi tiite zvemagarden tione kubatsirika. So it's an inclusive conversation inoda kuitwa nemunhu wese.
I think some of them, they still think that like there's this other time I was having a conversation with a female pastor, and then she said she was asking someone to wash the clothes, male, and then she said, like as if we as women were married to be your housemate or something like that. So how then do we approach men? How do we approach our brothers? How do we approach the mother-in-laws also and the sister-in-laws, so that they understand where we are coming from as women?
Tsitsi, I think just having a conversation ndoda kubatsirwa maybe zvinhu zvakandiwandira, ndokunotora ndatadza kubika tiko zvinozvi, ndoda kumbotanga ndayamwisa mwana, ndodai, kana ndangopedza ndokuitira tii. Asi kana uchikwanisa kundibatsirawo kungoti usanodai dai dai, munhu pakadaro anokurumidza kuti akubatsire pane kuti bika tii, hausi kana ndikuyamwisa mwana ndapedza izvozvo ndoda kuita washeni. Saka communication iyoyo ndakudzikisira kuti isvike pa-individual level. But that's also how we need to communicate even munharaunda dzedu, to say, can we have a conversation? But dialogues iwayo akakosha, to just have dialogues where we involve women, where we also involve men, because awareness yemurume yakuita kuti in their spaces they also talk about it and help other men also kuti vatoti aiwaka, helping out is what is really important. So we need to involve men and put them at the center of our advocacy initiatives, so that vanodzidzawo kuti it's just normal, it's just normal. Ende vaya vanotoya vachitaura kuti akadyiswa kaita sei, ototi aka zvakakosha kuti ubatsire. Inini baba vangu vakasofa kudhara, an old man, but baba vangu vaitora chikorobho chaicho votopfugama pasi votoita se vokorobha. Mama vangu ndovaitozovarambidza kuti aiwa musadaro munoonekwa kana kuti vanhu nhasi vari kuuya kuchechi musadaro vedu, because vanenge vachiziva. But I think iko zvino kana tasvika pakuti takukwanisa kuita that conversation within our communities and also have that conversation as a national, the policies that we can make that can favor redistribution of unpaid care work.
Thank you so much, Carol, for joining us today at our program. And this is Zim Daily. You are free to contact us if you need anything, if you need also to come and deal with these discussions, because 16 days, we still have a lot, 10 more days to go. And we are discussing about gender-based violence in different sectors. It might be in education, at home, at water points, in different places. And like I said before, it's fund, respond, prevent, and collect. And to me and the team behind the scene, I want to thank you so much for joining Zim Daily today. Until next time, thank you.
Goodbye.